Hello world, I am Curtis Simpson, and this is Jective's Typography News number 65. I see Jim Kurth and Evie Kramer already in chat. Good to see you both. Today is August 2nd, 2026. I forget what I was saying, but per usual, we have plenty of typography news for you this week. I have 4 featured stories. We've got Glyphs 4. I think everyone was expecting that one. Type.lol, Fontbase. They launched a new rankings, and it's kind of interesting. ShieldFont is an interesting AI preventative typography technology that's kind of cool. I have 3, how would you say this? Like 3 upcoming or updated fonts, and then I have 6 brand new releases. And then we're going to do 2 deep dives today. Let me give you some names for some of these foundries and see if you guys are interested in them. If so, you can stick around. We've got new fonts to look at from Dalton, Maag, Bold Monday, 2 new Google fonts. I don't remember the foundries, so we'll get to those when we get to those. We have London Type Foundry, Typofonderie, Zetafonts, 6 alpha releases from Zetafonts. It's pretty cool. Zelow Type, Fonts, and René Bieder. And then we got deep dives into Mestiza text from Lechuga Type. We looked at that last week. We also looked at Benang from WeType. Gonna have a deep dive on that one. And then I'll send you off with one video, which is pretty cool because it's related to something we've talked about before on the channel. So hello, everyone in chat. Hello, everyone watching the replay. Let me not waste any more time and we'll get into some news. Let me see if I can remember how to do this, guys. Here we go. Okay. I am not a Glyphs user, so I'm going to switch screens. I am not a Glyphs user, so I am going to keep this story here to a minimum, but Glyphs 4 did release. It's been in beta. I reported when the beta was coming out, so I'm sure if you are a Glyphs user, you were probably paying attention, but I'll go ahead and do like a slow scroll through this web page. I did have plans to cover this during the week. Those plans didn't end up coming to fruition, which is completely okay, because I'm not sure that I'm the best person to talk about Glyphs 4 in its in all the details, because I do not use this. You can see that I am on Windows. I dual boot Windows and Fedora. I do not use Mac, and like much type software, type editors, font editors, this is Mac only. So Glyphs 4 did launch. One thing I can say, despite not using Glyphs 4, is that anytime there is new software, if it's critical to your work, I would always wait, unless you can use both of them at once. If you can use Glyphs 3.5 and Glyphs 4 at the same time, perfect. I wouldn't replace Glyphs 3.5 with Glyphs 4, because if you check the forum, you will see many posts on here. Some of these are like cool, good things. Many of them are bugs or people that are confused and plugins that no longer work and things like that. So definitely hold off. This isn't just a Glyphs thing, but with any software, I would always advise like holding off until you're absolutely sure that you're ready to upgrade, and that if you need access to your old software, you'll still have access to the older versions. So yeah, Glyphs 4. It's out. Check it out. I'm not the expert. You all are probably more experts on Glyphs than I am. A couple of cool things though that I can speak on. The second story here is from, let me go ahead and click on this one instead. This second story here is from Type.lol, and this was formerly known as, let me see. This was formerly known as the Type Foundry Index. Now known as Type.lol. I'm going to put my face down here. I know I moved it up to the top, but I feel like it's a little bit less bothersome down here. If you don't know, Type.lol is a, as the old name suggests, is a very large Foundry index. There are a few different of these out there that exist. This is the only one still standing. The others have somewhat seemingly been abandoned. At least they don't seem to be getting updates as regularly. But Type.lol, this is by Mark Johnson. I've talked about this on the channel before. The main thing here would be to go to like Foundries, and then you can see the default view is this grid view. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's a bunch of iframes, and you can see all the websites. I'm sure some people that are very visual would like this. For me, I'm nerdy. I want to see everything in a list. So I like to go through here and check and see if there's any foundries that I don't know about. I go to the designer section, and it's cool. You can see their faces here. But I like to go to the list again and check to see if there are any names that I don't recognize on here. And there are plenty. And then I research them, I subscribe to their newsletters, and do all that fun research stuff. What we're going to talk about today, though, are the studies. This is a new section on the website that I think is really interesting. Let me zoom in and make this as big as possible. There's only one right now, and it's a small look at where type designers study. But there are two others coming up. The next one is where in the world type gets made, and then who really owns the type you use. So with all of these foundries and all these designers and just all of this data in general, and Mark does use some AI to help augment and help do this data collection and stuff. But one thing that he's doing that I think is going to be the make or break for a lot of these AI infused platforms is what they do with that data, because just spitting out that data is going to be like interpreting that data versus just throwing all the data at you is going to be the difference between like slop and actually useful stuff. So this is kind of cool. It just shows where people studied at. You got the Royal Academy in The Hague. You've got University of Reading on here. You've got ECAL. I don't know how to say this one, but another Parisian school. Type at Cooper, Nancy. You've got all the schools on here you expect to see. And then it's got this little flow that goes from one side to the other. I'm going to turn my face off, guys. I apologize. I'm just blocking everything. I'm just blocking everything. Evie, I agree. But yeah, so it's kind of cool because you can go into this in like the full size view like this. Mine's kind of messing up, so that's why I left this screen. But you can go into the full size view right here, and it'll show you the school they studied at, and then it'll go over to the right, and it'll show you a lot of the main foundries where they ended up. This here is kind of a condensed version of it, but I think this is really interesting information. And while the display of this isn't perfect, as we can see, it's kind of glitching out a little bit. The fact that he is analyzing this and trying to make something interesting out of this, I think is really, really cool. I'm really excited about this. I love this nerdy stuff. If you're watching Typography News, you probably love this nerdy stuff too. But you can see 311 schools, 825 designers, and then just kind of tracing it from one side to the other. So this is linked in the description. I'm really interested to see the other two studies as well. So what were the other two? Where in the world type gets made? So it's going to be a similar thing, I think, but it's going to be, geographic and tell you what countries and possibly what cities. I'm not sure. We'll find out. It looks like cities and countries where the type gets made. And then the other one is who owns the type you use. So yeah, much of the industry has been consolidated. And it'll be interesting to see where most of it actually sits, like who actually owns most of it. I mainly report on independent foundries here because they're doing the most interesting stuff, releasing the most typefaces. But there are some really, really big foundries out there and owners of foundries that will probably surprise even me. Next story here. I do have my typical disclosure for anything Fontbase related. Fontbase is the sponsor of this episode. So this story is not sponsored and I have complete editorial control. That's in my contract, but it's still, you still need to be aware. Anytime the news is reporting on something they're also sponsored by, you should be aware of it, whether that's me or, a broadcast news station. I found this really, really cool though. This is even more cool than Fontalog that we talked about last week. This is global font rankings and stats. So another case of a platform or an app with a lot of data and then putting that data to use. So this probably looks kind of familiar if you've ever seen like my fonts top 100 or popular list on Adobe or Google or something like that. You'll see something similar to this. But what it is it's all of they take the data from the fonts that are actually active. So if you go into like your Fontbase, not the fonts that you have on here, I have 50,000 fonts, but just the fonts that are active, like these that are actually turned on. And it counts those numbers up and it gives you the top 200 fonts that people have active on their Fontbase. So this is going to be limited to the sample of Fontbase users. You can click more rows. By default, it shows 100 and you can get 200 if you do more rows on there. The other thing you can click is to turn on and off Google Fonts. So right now you'll notice Helvetica New. Let's see how big I can make this. You can see the top 10 are Helvetica New, Gotham, Myriad, Helvetica New again. One standard, one is Pro. Another Helvetica New, Minion, a lot of them that you would probably expect to be there. And these have a very big overlap with what you see on my fonts. But if you turn on Google Fonts, suddenly Google Fonts is just topping the charts here because you've got Montserrat, Poppins, you still got Helvetica New, but then you got Roboto, Inter, Railway, Barlow, then you got Gotham, Myriad Sans, then you got Open Sans, Montserrat Alternates. So in terms of Fontbase users, which is over 100,000, probably hundreds of thousands, I know it's definitely over 100,000 because I've asked before. These are what people are using. Is this super surprising right now? Probably not. But what I think is going to be really cool about this is the fact that now this exists and we can look through and we can track different typefaces. And if there's something that's trending and like actually pushing up through the charts, I think that'll be really cool to see. Let me just show you one last thing. If you click on a font, it'll tell you how many installs it has. So we can see Tusker Grotesque is like, some of these have like 2,000 installs. Some of them are a little bit higher than that. But it shows you where they're at on the chart. So you can see like a little stock ticker that says up or down, but if you click on it, then you can actually see where they're sitting at and you can kind of get almost like a trending line to see like where they're at. Helvetica New Standard all the way on top, just sitting there. Gotham, it's going up a little bit over the last 5 days. So I think over the long term, similar to what we just saw with Type.lol, this could be a really cool thing to track and pay attention to. And if we get all the way down to the bottom, you can see how many fonts are being used each day, but you can also start to see what they're going to be compiling for like the top fonts of June, July. And I'm really excited to see how this plays out over the long term, even though right now the names on there might not be too surprising. One more featured story here for you, and then I'm going to get into events, updates, and new releases. Okay, everything's good in chat. You guys may have seen this one. I am going to wait to give like, I'm not going to give a super in-depth opinion or even reporting on this right now because I don't have a full grasp of it. There's a lot going on, which I'm really happy with. But this is called ShieldFont, and it's being produced by S&A, which is a studio, and Playtype, which is a Foundry that we've talked about on the channel before. We can go ahead and read this right here. It says ShieldFont is an open source creative technology intervention developed to protect human writing from unauthorized AI training. Basically, what they're doing is AI scrapers will go in and they'll look at the code on a website. So they'll go in and they'll look at the HTML and they'll look, they've got a bunch of scripts on here. I can't get it. Where's the main? There's the main. They'll go in and they'll look at the HTML and they'll actually read what that says. What this does is it's using this ShieldFont technology to create a bunch of ligatures. As far as I understand, I could be wrong, guys. Please check this out on your own. But from what I understand is that it's using ligatures like open type technology, and it changes the font so that it reads one way for HTML, and that's what you're seeing in the green here. It changes the font so the HTML reads one thing for the AI, and then it switches it back using ligatures to make it readable for humans. There was a lot of technology going into this, and a lot of the problems, things that you're thinking like, oh, but what about this? What about screen readers? What about copying, pasting? What about, you know, like all these different things? They've thought about these as well, and they have answers. There's a lot of FAQs on here, a lot of frequently asked questions. They have white papers. They have the full GitHub that you can go to on here and look at everything. Like it said, it's open source. And this is really interesting. Do I think this is going to be? I don't know what the final outcome of this will be. And you know, they are using AI to help build this, so you know, a little bit of fighting fire with fire. But I do think that this is an interesting technology. I think that AI scraping is always going to be a cat and mouse game, but it's fun to see. You know, I don't know who's the cat and who's the mouse, but it's fun to see one of them making moves. So I think this is really cool. It's really interesting to see what people do with fonts in terms of like, in terms of, I don't know, like actually doing stuff other than just typography. You know what I mean? Like using font technology. So like I said, I'm not going to speak too much on this because I don't fully grasp what's going on yet. But there's a lot of really good documentation on here, and it seems like you can use other fonts as well. You don't have to just use Optic, which is Playtype's typeface. We actually reported on that when it released. But yeah, I think that this looks cool. Let me look at chat real quick because I see Daryl's on here. Daryl, welcome, welcome. Daryl says global font rankings and stats based on sales/downloads would be helpful add-on data. Yeah, that would be cool. I think that's probably something my fonts would be better suited for because Fontbase doesn't sell fonts. So that's the one problem with that. And that's one thing that I am interested about with this Fontbase ranking is because these are fonts that people actually have installed. And I've always kind of wondered, like, if we go to, I don't know how do we get to Popular, but we'll just do my fonts real quick. Do they have a Popular on here? No. I've always wondered on my fonts, if you go to like bestsellers, I'm sure that these are probably accurate, but I've always kind of wondered if a marketplace has a vested interest because they own the fonts, is there an incentive for them to put them on the top of these charts? I think there is an incentive. Whether they do it or not is not something that I can answer. But I do think that that's the one thing that Fontbase's rankings have, where these are literally just like, these are the fonts that people have installed. I'm not sure. I'm sure there are accuracy issues with both of these. But it's interesting to see, and you can kind of like match these up compared to like what's selling on my fonts or what's activated on Google Fonts or what's activated on Adobe Fonts. So it's just cool to have another data point, I guess, and just kind of try and track some trends. Next up here, we have an event, just one event this week. It's not a free one. Typically, I only announce free events, but this one here I thought was pretty interesting, and I accidentally didn't copy this, did I? Let's go to Daytona Mess's Instagram real quick. Daytona Mess, because Daytona Mess, designer of one of my favorite fonts of the year, Dargan. This is in my top 3 for fonts of the year for 2026 so far. Did like a full special deep dive on this. Andolphine Borean, aka Daytona Mess, is doing a workshop, 4 sessions, 2 hours each. It's in September and October. And there's 2 interesting things here. 1, it's Daytona Mess, so I'm already interested in it. 2, she's going to be doing the course in Fontra. So I have linked that Instagram post as well as this link to the workshop. The workshop's being hosted through the Boring Workshops, which is not something I was previously familiar with, but it's 150 euros. So I guess that would break down to what, like 37.50 per day. 150 divided by 2 would be 75, divided by 2 would be 37.50. Yeah. But I think it's pretty cool. It's not something, a lot of workshops are kind of like not geared at beginners because it takes a long time to get going. This is one that I think would be good for beginners because you don't have to know anything. And if you've been interested in Fontra, I think it could be cool just for that, even if you already know how to design, but you don't know how to use Fontra. It could be a cool course just to learn Fontra with a cool type designer. So I don't know a ton about this one. I know what I know from this post right here on Instagram and then what's listed on the website, but I'm sure that you could reach out to either one and learn more about it. So that's coming up September 5th, 12th, 19th, and then October 3rd. I think there's a 2-week gap between the last 2 days of that workshop. And now let's get into some updates and upcoming fonts. The first one here is coming from Dalton Maag. Okay. Dalton Maag had a typeface called Bressay. And I think I'm saying that right, Bressay. I think it's like essay plus a BR. And now that typeface is called Bressay Classic. That typeface was only static and it only had 6 styles. It had 4 text styles and it had 2 display styles, and you can see some language support and stuff there. Yeah, so 2 text, bold, regular, plus italics, and then display and regular plus italics. Now it has recently been expanded and has 18 total styles. It's only text and Bressay variable, but it's been added to variable and then really, really expanded in terms of styles. And I love Scotch Roman, so I had to mention this one, Scotch Roman variable, full trials on it. So, you know, what's not to like? But there you can see all of the styles right there, upright, italic, nine different styles on each of those, coming up to a total of 18, 795 glyphs on this one, 24 open type features. You can get it from the Foundry. This is not a new font, but the variable has, I mean, it's been greatly expanded, as we just saw, you know, 4 text styles up to 18 text styles. Every time I say text styles, I feel like I'm saying textiles as in fabrics. But let me show you this in Affinity, because like I said, it does have, oops, that's not the right one. It does have full font trials. So I went ahead and downloaded it so I could check it out for you guys. And I actually asked about variable fonts because I noticed that they are often in the comments on Reddit talking about variable fonts. Recently, there have been people asking, like, why aren't there any good variable fonts? And one of my responses was, there are a lot, trust me, I report on them every week. But other people have, you know, been on there being like, do people actually use variable fonts? And Foundries and users both are commenting, and no, there's a lot of conversations going on there. But the one thing that's been consistent is that Dalton Maag chimes in and notes that they are variable first. And so this time, with this new variable font releasing, I took the opportunity to ask and get an official statement, and this was their statement. I don't think we need to read it in full. You guys can pause and read it if you want to. But it did give me the opportunity to set this statement in Bressay, which I think is nice, because then I don't have to set it in my my typography Wikipedia article. They did not put this in bold and italics. I did that so we could see how they stand out, but you can see this is the text version right here. Nice ligature on the FI there, but the bold stands out very nicely against the regular. And a lot of times Scotch Romans can be not great to read. You see them in like legal documents and stuff like that, but this looks beautiful. I love Scotch Romans, especially ones that are made for text. The one thing this doesn't have, so I guess I could show you real quick, not a deep dive, but just real quick. Let's use Bressay up here. This has a variable axis. There you go. I really think the black looks nice. It gets a lot more contrast. It's nice and chunky. And since it's the text, you still have those chunky serifs on it, which I kind of prefer, I'm not gonna lie. Didones are fun, but this Scotch Roman, which is kind of like a more usable Didone, it is my preference. They do, though, have this one, which I made darker so that it didn't distract. This is the original. So Bressay Classic Display is not available in this new variable version. Let me set this one in display for you as well. Boom. And you can see the difference between these two right here. The bottom is Display Classic. The top is the new variable for text. And you can see there is a difference between these. The thing I would love to see in the next update is an optical slider. I would love to be able to see like an optical slider so that we can set Bressay for big, nice headlines and then use it for text as well. I think that would be really, really nice. So if you want the two display styles, there was display and display italic. There's the italic. We didn't even show you the italic for this one, did we? You need to go get those from the classic section. But Bressay right here, let me go ahead and show you this one with the variable axis as well, because it does have true italics on it with the variable slider as well. So you do have text and then text italic as separate variable font files, since they are true italics. So very nice, nice update. And you know, I'm generally on board with what with what Dalton Maag's putting down, because they do some good stuff. Next update here is a story we've talked about before as well. Go ahead and load these up. The story is Bold Monday's PIM is now available on Adobe fonts. I'm letting Adobe load in the background because it always has to log in every single time for some reason. But we talked about PIM back on Typography News number 29, and it was based on storefront windows, and they had all these fun emojis, and like the umlauts were made out of like cartoon eyes and things like this. And as we were talking about that one, I said this is only available from the Foundry, but other typefaces are available on Adobe fonts, so it's entirely possible that these could show up on Adobe Fonts one day, and that day is this day. Actually, a couple of days ago, but here it is right here. PIM, all 4 styles, regular, medium, bold, and inline, and of course they have all of the fun emojis and stuff like that built into it. So this is now available on Adobe Fonts with your regular Creative Cloud subscription, whatever that is. Yeah, I think that's enough. Let's move on to a Google font. 2 Google fonts. So this one here, 2 new Google fonts. If we try to search for these on Google Fonts, you will see nothing shows up. The first is called Nevermind. The second is called Valley Sands. That's because Google Fonts is always a little bit behind its GitHub repo. So I do have these on my computer. I'm going to show them to you in just a second. But I want to show you the repos that they're linked to, because these are the Foundry repos on GitHub. So the first one here is XMind. This is not a new typeface, but it is going to be new to Google Fonts. And the full Nevermind family is not being added. Only Nevermind Sans and Italic are being added to it. So you can see Nevermind is actually this giant family that has like mono and rounded and Bauhaus and all this other stuff. Only the I apologize, the sans serif is being added. And we'll look at this in Affinity in just a second. The second one that's being added is from the Helsinki Type Studio, and it is called Valley Sands. And out of the 2, this is the one I'm more excited about. One of the main reasons is because this Nevermind was actually the XMind. It's their brand font. So you guys know how I feel about using another brand's font. Valley Sands, on the other hand, this is really cool. It's a little bit flared, but it's got a lot of personality to it. And it just looks really neat. I don't know all the background on this yet because this literally just got updated yesterday morning. I check the GitHub repo every night at 2 a.m., every morning at 2 a.m., I guess. And this one showed up between July 31st and August 1st, and it should be on Google Fonts very soon. But if you can't wait, you could check either the Google GitHub repo, a Google Fonts GitHub repo, or I've linked this Foundry page in the description, so you can get it directly from the Foundry. Let me pull this up in Affinity, and we can look at both of these super fast. Jim Girth says, cutting edge journalism. I appreciate it. So this is Nevermind. You can see it's very geometric. It doesn't look bad. I mean, this looks nice. I don't know if this is the fork of something else because it is still OFL, so it's an open font license. You can see I've got it labeled right up there. Most new additions to most new additions to Google Fonts are still OFL. Funny enough, this will eventually end up on Adobe Fonts because they also use all of the Adobe fonts. So if you want to sync your stuff on there, you can, but I would encourage you to go download it so you have control over your own fonts. But this looks, familiar to what we see from a lot of geometric sans serifs. Nothing crazy, but it looks pretty standard. Looks fine. I think the big thing for me is this M. I don't love when M's kind of break up high like that when the vertex is so high. I did check to see if there's an alternate for that. There's not. There is only one stylistic set, and I'm not sure what it does. I think it might be punctuation. Let me just type a couple of punctuations on here real quick. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is. This is something I'm going to have to test out this week. But Nevermind is one of them. The one I'm more excited about here is Valley Sands. And this one is variable. So it's got a slider on it. Let's go ahead and take this all the way down. It goes all the way down to thin and all the way up to black. And I didn't quite make this big enough. Let me make it a little bigger so we can get this all in one line. There we go. 2 lines rather. And Valley Sands looks like it has a lot of character. We'll just do lowercase and uppercase at the same time here. But it's got slightly flared serifs on it, just enough to give it some character, a little bit of contrast. Some of it's got a little bit more at the pinches of the G and stuff like that. But a lot of these are just, just slightly flared to give it a little bit of contrast, but it's very playful, and I like the M that goes all the way to the baseline like that. Jim Girth agrees that Valley looks very nice, and Evie Kramer likes the italic. Let's see here. Yeah, this is fun. The one, I'm going to nitpick this, I guess. I probably shouldn't on a new release, but I'll go ahead and do it anyway. The one nitpick I had on this was kind of the R right here. I was like, it's just kind of like, it is what it is. The R feels a little bit close to the stem where it connects, but it does keep the playful nature. And at the heavier weights, I think that kind of fills in nicely. So, it's probably just one of those things where you have to decide, like, where is it going to look good most of the time. There is, however, an alternate for it, which I was kind of excited for. There's an alternate K, and R, but it actually moves it in even more. So if you really like that, if you're unlike me and you really like it, you can get even more playful and push it all the way to the stem right there. Let's see how this looks nice and big. I'm going to have to zoom out. Nice and big on that R. That's kind of fun. I think this font probably is best used in, like, as fun as possible. So making the R more like, I don't know, Avenir or something with the straight leg probably isn't the right move. Probably what they're doing right here is the right move. And they've got the alternate G, the alternate AD, what you would expect to see. So this one looks really fun. Valley Sans, like I said, both of these are still open font license. You can download these. You can do anything almost with SIL Open OFL. Use it commercially for free. Great license. So always really fun to see what's being added to Google Fonts. And for once we're on the ball. We got them before it's even on Google Fonts. Okay, I'm gonna get a drink of water because once again, this episode is sponsored by Fontbase. I've talked about this several times on the channel now. You saw me using it since the beginning of the channel, but I'm going to give you one more pitch on this. Free Font Manager. It's on Windows, Linux, and Mac. I've already talked about a lot of the features, so I'm not going to repeat myself. The one thing that I'm really excited about, or that made me choose this, that I haven't talked about yet, is a feature that's so good I almost forget that it exists, and it is watched folders. So you can see this fonts and Google Fonts right here. The fonts is my default font folder. I sync everything with Dropbox, though you can sync it through Fontbase if you wanted. But the Google Fonts one here is really cool because I have it linked to my Fedora server and it just watches that folder. So when I saw there was new fonts today from Google, or yesterday from Google, I didn't have to go download them or anything. I have this folder watched on here and I can just search Nevermind and there it is right there. I can just search Valley Sans and there it is right there. They're just there. They just exist. You don't have to do anything. If you add fonts to your regular font folder, like you download them, go stick them in your folder for Dropbox or wherever you stick them, it just shows up in Fontbase, and then you turn them on and turn them off, and I don't know, it's like magic. It's very responsive, and with 50,000 fonts, I can't keep all of them active. So what I chose to use is Fontbase, and I used this long before they ever paid me to talk about it. So I'm really grateful. I don't know if the sponsorship will go beyond today, but they did sponsor for the month. This is the last episode of that month. So shout out to Fontbase. Link is in the description as well as in chat. I really am a fan of Fontbase. So check them out if you are in need of a font manager because it exists on every operating system. Next up, our new releases. We've got 6 of them. 6 new releases here. Oh, ShieldFont developer in the chat. Let's go ahead and show that one again. Very nice. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, there it is right there. Talk to the ShieldFont developer that's in chat right now. Yeah, I'm really, really interested in this. I think you may have seen my comment on Reddit, Curtis Simpson on Reddit. But I'm excited for this. I have not had a time to dive completely into it, but I think that it's really cool. So if you guys have questions, you know now who to bother. Let's get into some new releases. First of 6 new releases is coming from London Type Foundry. This is called LDN Poplar, and I mistakenly called this Popular all week. So if I say Popular instead of Poplar, I apologize, London Type Foundry. But Poplar is this right here. It's a wood type display font, and it's something that feels very familiar, but not something you see often released in like 2026. It feels like something you see in old specimen books and stuff like that. So I'm really interested in this one. It is. I'll go ahead and read the description here for you while we look at this gray tone one. It says, LDN Poplar is a new woodblock style typeface designed by Paul Harpin, inspired by a print he came across in the gents' toilet of a London public house. Public house is a very formal way to say pub, I guess. Intended for use at larger sizes, the condensed letter forms of the foreground font take on a chiseled metallic 3D appearance. Yeah, I could see that. And since that says foreground, you may have guessed already, this is a layered font. So there's a foreground and a background layer, and you can get the full family for £50, 25 for each one if you just wanted to get the foreground and then, you know, only print on top of something. But if you wanted to do like a dual color and you wanted the foreground and the background, then you could get it for $50. It also says here that it contains 8 directional manicules and a separate plain version. Oh, the separate plain version is the background right there. So, so you can see what they're doing. With the plain version, you could just print one color, or you could print, or sorry, with the foreground, you could print in just one color. With the plain version, you can print the background behind it. I'd love to see this in a color font. You know, it is 2026, guys. I'd love to see a color font in this, so we just have one file. But it looks really neat. And just before we go, I'll go ahead and show you the PDF because you can see all the glyphs at once. And you can see there is some language support on it that feels significant, but I really liked this @ symbol. And this is literally the whole reason why I'm going to show you this PDF right now, because look at that @ symbol. There's no lowercase on this, so they had to, you know, come up with a lowercase a. It looks like they might have pulled inspiration from the O there, but that makes sense. You know, you'd build your lowercase a from the O anyway. The ampersand's pretty neat too. It's always interesting to see how these types of things are handled. Like, look at the yen here, how you would handle all these different angles and stuff, because doing a straight line is easy. Making this all work is not quite so easy. So you can see there's a little bit of Latin support on here. I'm not sure how many languages are supported. I do think it says on the website. We can go back and check in just one second, but you know, everything looks nice. They could have easily just thrown some like black diacritics on there, but they went ahead and chiseled those out as well. So I think that's pretty cool. And there's the manicules to go with it. Let's go back and check the language support real quick. I'm not sure how important it is, but maybe someone will care. I don't see it listed. I apologize. Unless it's on the top of this. No, it doesn't look like it. So you'd have to figure out, maybe you could ask them what languages are supported, but at least some are. You know, it's not just like a 26 or 36 glyph set. They've got a significant set there. So that one is LDN Poplar from London Type Foundry. And next up here, we've got another fun one. This one's coming from Typofonderie. So we're moving from London to France. This is ArtMod from Typofonderie by Jean-Francois Porcher. Hopefully I'm saying his name right. I've said it many times, and that's how I always say it. This is a display font. Once again, only uppercase. I think I'm just going to let this play here for a second. We'll let this play. This was originally released in 2012 for a Paris department store that I do not know how to pronounce, and I will not attempt. But maybe some of you know what it is. It says Lebhv. Marais, maybe? Marais? I'm not sure how to say it. They use this for their corporate branding and signage and stuff from 2012 to 2023. And then that department store got a new visual identity, and now in 2026, it is available for retail. This is, let me go ahead and zoom back out on this. You can see it's very geometric. It's sans serif. Let me check my stats here. 479 glyphs on it, 9 styles. They're all weights. They're all uppercase. Yeah, I don't have a ton to say about this one. I will give my typical spiel about buying another brand's font, and that is I typically don't encourage it. Just because if someone recognizes this very distinct Art Deco style, I don't know that you can also pull that off. I guess if you're a completely different industry, it would be cool. But you can use just this. Like this part right here looks nice too. Oh, that downloaded the image. I was trying to open it. This looks nice right here. I'm not sure how different this would be from just a typical geometric sans serif. So you'd have to, factor that in. But if you did want all those extras, which is what I really think the fonts, where it excels at, you'd have to just balance whether or not you care that another brand use this. The one pro for this would be that that it's got 12 years or 14 years of like use under its belt. So any bugs or issues that would have been existing on this font, are there anything else there to look at? Anything that would have existed on this font has probably been sorted out by now. But you can see that the display portions, this Art Deco, fun, playful stuff, is the main selling feature, I think, of this. And you could see how this would be designed for a brand. So if somebody wanted to take that on, I guess they could. But for me, I probably wouldn't take on another brand's font. So anyway, it is available for the first time from Typofonderie. That is ArtMod, and it looks cool. If you like it, do not let me discourage you. $271 for the full family on desktop, but I think most people could probably get away with just the selection here, which is 4 fonts. It's going to be thin, regular, bold, and black for $134 rather than all 9. So you can see these here. I really, it's not variable, it's static. So I think you could probably get away with just using 4 of them. So ball on a budget, $134 for the full family, or $134 for the selection of 4 weights there. Let's get on to our third one. This is a big one. It's a really big one. I apologize. Let me close a bunch of these tabs before we open 6 new ones, and I will check chat as we go. You are very welcome, Font Shield. Okay, let's open all of these. Evie's in chat, and Evie saw me go through all 6 of these. I think I might have missed one of them. She saw me go through all 6 of these on the members content. So she's already seen all these, but for everyone else, these are going to be very exciting, I think. Zetafonts released 6 new alphas all at once, and they are all crazy. I'm going to speed run these, not going to go into as much detail as I have with the others because 6 fonts from one Foundry. We gotta play fair here, but all 6 of these have full font trials. So these are linked in the description. You can go get all 6 of these full fonts. I'm going to show you a glimpse of them right now, and then we'll scroll through each of the pages in alphabetical order here, I think. Yeah, alphabetical order. So the first is Antimonia. Obviously, you can see this is a high contrast stencil typeface. It's got sharp serifs on it, and it's got a slight lean to it. So that's what's going on here. This one, yeah, I'm not going to read you all the weights and stuff like that. I'm literally just going to scroll through a little bit, show you what's going on, give you a look at it. I really enjoyed looking at all of these. But like I said, there's full font trials and everything's linked in the description. So please go check out any of these that you're excited about. I am going to do a deep dive on one of these next week. So if you have a preference, let me know which of these you are most interested in. Also, I do believe that every single one of these is variable because there might be some that I think every single one of these is a variable. I'm pretty sure. Next up here, Automat Grotesque. As you can see, very grotesque-y. Based on Accidents Grotesque, but making it more rational like the ones that followed. So Helvetica Universe, Berthold. And you can see that all plays in. But notice right here, it's also got a monospace version. Not only does it have a monospace version, I think this one had some other, maybe I'm thinking of a different one. Okay, I don't want to get ahead of myself. This one has regular stereo and mono. Stereo is like semi monospaced. Let's go ahead and keep scrolling through this one. There we go, right there. And a lot of these too, they will show you the fonts will show you highlighted characters on here. Zetafonts does a great job with their web pages. They'll show you all of the alternates that exist in like the basic A through Z, that kind of like what I show you in Affinity. Evie Kramer says they were great. I appreciate it. I think so too. But yeah, and then they show you all the open type features here. Oh, this is the one. This is the one. Okay, so this one has the proportional, has semi-mono, has monospaced, and then it also has these pixel versions of it. 2 different pixel versions of it. Okay, I can't keep diving into this one. We're gonna have to move on. But the second one here was Automat Grotesque. Third one here is Decameron. I forget. I looked up how to say this and now I've already forgotten. But it's old style, new vibes, eternal design is how they're pitching this one. And you can see it is very old style, but it feels nice. And I'll say the same thing I said during the member stuff is I hope that there's a ligature for that FL because that doesn't look great where it's bumping into each other. One thing to remember about these, as you're looking at these are all alphas. They're not betas, they're alphas. These are the first round. They're being pushed out, and you can test them out for free. They're probably a little bit cheaper right now than they will be as they advance through like being betas and full releases. But these Zetafonts alphas for fall, winter 2026 are crazy. You can see this one here, old style, full, true italics on this one. And it just looks great. All of these look great. Once again, you can see the alternates in red there. Okay, we're gonna keep moving, but that's Decameron. Decameron, someone let me know. I know this is a philosophical paradox. We looked it up during the member stuff. Next up here is Dominica. This one is a Bodoni. See, that's how I always used to say it wrong. Bodoni for Digital Times. And as you can see, once again, it's variable. You can see that slider right there. And it looks nice. A Bodoni for Digital Times. High contrast, of course. It's going to be a modern high contrast. But you can see it's got 4 different optical sizes: caption, text, headline, and display. Once again, these are all available for full font downloads. You can download these, test them out. I'm going to be testing them out this week, but there is a significant difference between each one of these optical sizes, which you'll love to see because it really does make these high contrast, rational, modern typefaces much more usable outside of just, very specific headlines and giant sizes, because this right here, those are going to disappear. I mean, they're almost disappearing on the screen right now. That's display. Let's take it all the way down to caption. I don't want to give it too much, but there's how chunky caption can get. So I think this could really be a workhorse for the right brand. No italics on this one yet, but I could see them getting there eventually. This is an alpha, like we said. Next up, we've got Fruity. Fruity is really fun because it gets really thin and really wide. I'm just going to let this play for a second. There it goes. It's also got a bunch of weights. So no italics on Fruity yet. If they are coming, I'm not sure. But a ton of, I don't even know what you'd say, like a ton of versatility packed into one font here with the weights and the widths that are on this one. It says Fruity is a humanist sans superfamily that channels the design spirit of Adrian Frutiger's great superfamilies while keeping its letter forms edgy, slightly unbalanced, and quietly alive. Quietly alive is an interesting, an interesting adjective there. You can see how tall the X height is on here. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, you can see all the styles right here. There's 6 different widths on it, and then it looks like 7 different weights, so probably 42 total styles on this one. Thin up to extra bold, and Skyline is a super condensed version. Skyline up to expanded. And we'll just scroll through this a little bit. And then we've got one more after this one. So let me know if you guys have preferences. Leave a comment if you're watching the replay. And this one, let's get some alternates here. Just looks like one alternate for now on this one, just the lowercase a, but this typeface has already got a lot going on. These numerals, I'll say it officially, I won't say numbers. These numerals look very nice. The 8 is upside down though. That's interesting. So it's kind of top heavy there. Or maybe it's perfectly balanced and the optical illusion is making it appear upside down, but I think that looks, can we make it even bigger? That looks top heavy to me. What do you guys think? I'm not hating on it. I think it looks cool, but it's unexpected for sure. Next up is Graham. So Graham is, let's go ahead and scroll down. Once again, variable, you can see right there. Keep calm and use good type. This is based on Gilstans and Johnston and those, what are they calling these? Classical Roman proportions. These would be humanist though, right? They're digital, no, geometric and humanist maybe. It says, pays homage to the iconic British spirit of Johnston and Gill, reinterpreted with an edgy digital aesthetic. So it's got 20 styles, 10 weights plus italics. And once again, I'm going to scroll through this pretty quick. I apologize, but let me know which one you would like to see next week and we can dive into it a little bit deeper. I'm probably going to do deep dives on each of these for myself, just because I'm excited to see what each of these has to offer beyond what you can see on this page right here. You can see there's a lot of alternates here. I like the ampersand here. They've got the full ET there. And I also like these overlapping W's. I always like to see that. Some people don't like these G's without the crossbar. Luckily, the default has the crossbar on it. But I know some people complain about Montserrat's G not having a crossbar on it. Daryl says Decameron is my preferred choice. Okay, I'm going to go back and look at it in 1 second. That's the old style. Okay. This one has small capitals. Some of them, I didn't scroll down this far on the other ones. Some of the other ones did also have small caps as well. But you can see this has a lot of stylistic sets and things like that. Circled numbers, all kinds of fun stuff. Look how wide Graham can get. Man, that can get really chunky or really, really like basic. Let's see. So far, Decameron is in the lead. I know Evie liked fruity. Jim Girth says, I like Graham the most. It has another wild R. Let's look at Graham's R. So we've got Decameron, we got fruity, and we got Graham. Gosh, you guys going to make me do more than one of these. Yeah, this one's pretty fun too. Like I said, I liked all of these. The only one I didn't like really love was Antimonia, and that's just because I don't like stencil fonts. I know there's a high contrast, but it's kind of getting into that stencil-y area. But so far, we've got votes for Graham, Fruity, Decameron. Jim says, again, the lowercase t with my pet peeve. Let's see how filled in this lowercase t is here. Oh, yep, there it is right there. I think I even noted this when I was looking at it before. I was like, Jim's not going to like this filled in T on there. Yeah, it can really be distracting. And if you put it in text, let's see if we can get some text on here. Punctuation uppercase. Oh, no, it doesn't look like we can. Yeah, when you do like a body copy with that text, those keys that are filled in right there can be somewhat distracting because they add like a big blob of ink where there typically wouldn't be any. But in general, I think Graham's excellent. I think Fruity's excellent. Dominica, I think all of these just look really, really nice. Decameron's really fun because it's got really, really true italics. Like I call a lot of things true italics, but these could not be further, different from one another. These are like old style italics where they pair together, but they really look almost nothing alike. Okay, we got to move on. We got 3 more new releases here. Anybody watching the replay, go ahead and cast your votes as well. This next one here is from Zelow Type. It's called ZT Moven. And this is an interesting one too. It's 22 styles on this, 95 glyphs. It's got a bunch of language support that was thought about before it was designed with the language support in mind. And you can already see a bunch of the stylistic sets up here. They're really throwing everything at it. This is great marketing right here. They've got everything kind of up front and center here. I'm not sure if that's overload for some people, but they do have a lot going on here. Oh, you can scroll through this. I'm going to get a drink. I'll click through a few of these. What I found most interesting about this is Zelow Type is actually the Foundry that we talked about back when Jessica Walsh's Foundry, Type of Feeling, released Gravitas. Can we get it to load? 3, 2, 1. I'm about to leave. There it is, Gravitas. So when we designed this, when we reported on Gravitas from Type of Feeling, I noted that the metadata had another Foundry listed. This is the Foundry that, along with Jessica Walsh, designed Gravitas. So just a little bit of, I don't know, what would you call it? Pedigree? I don't know. Just a little bit of like fun connection there. This typeface, 22 styles, 11 regular plus 11 italic with variable, with a bunch of language support, with 95 glyphs, is $19 for the complete family on desktop. I think that's the most interesting thing about this. Insane value, a Foundry that is working with other big names in the industry, and dropping this for $19, which seems absolutely insane. I am going to nitpick though, so I can let you see what you're getting for $19. I did request and receive a review license of this. This is not a deep dive. This is just going to be like a first impression on this. But you guys can see what you're getting, right? It's kind of grotesque, but it's got a lot of language support, but it's got these kind of filled in, kind of like bracketed joints on it. So let me find Z2 Moven here. Jim Girth says Moven looks super clean. I agree. This is a fun one. I was really excited about this one. I have a couple of bummers, a couple of nitpicks on it. I don't think I have the variable version of it. I think I just have the static version, but this does come in variable. I just have the static version. Oh, you know what? I do have variable, but I'm not going to switch it. It's fine. So it goes from hairline. Let's see if the T works, Jim. There's the T, just a small little scallop on there, a small little bracket. ZT Moven here, it goes from hairline all the way up to, not bold, extra black. There it is. You gotta scroll down. The list is so long. So it can get really, really, really heavy. And I think you got a lot of versatility in this. Not only can it get really heavy, but it does have the italics. So you've got the extra black italics. Let me go ahead and throw this on variable for you real quick so you can see a little bit of how the interpolation works here, and then I'll show you my nitpicks. So we got the weight. Wait, nope, I'm on the wrong thing. I clicked on my I clicked on my label on accident. We've got weight right here. Boom. So there you go. Pretty clean, pretty clean. It's interesting to see how they fill it in when you get to these like really, really light weights, to see how the contrast and just where the weight goes in the font. So I like to see that. Let me show you my nitpicks before I get too off track here. It's the Q. The Q is my biggest one. Let me get back to the regular weight here, or I mean the Roman. We'll set it on bold. Look at this Q. Do you see what I see? The tail is slightly off center to the left. If it's going to be anywhere, I think it should be on the right. I can maybe stick, let me see. Let me see. I can stick a square on here for you real quick. And it's so subtle. So I apologize if this isn't going to like really demonstrate it. But if I get this lined up perfectly, so you can see it's on there almost perfect. There, it's on there perfect. Gosh, how could we do this? Now we got to run a guide down this. I'm not sure. If I take a guide right down the middle of this, it's not actually in the middle of the square. In the middle of the Q. I apologize. I did this before. It's like just a hairline off. It's just a hair off. Let me undo all of this so you can see what it looks like on its own. Just very, very slightly to the left. You could probably see it. You have designer eyes. I know you can see this tiny off center Q. The rest of this looks really nice though. Let's just go ahead and give an A to Z super fast. We'll do uppercase and lowercase at the same time. It does have some stylistic sets. You know, it's going to get rid of some tails, add some tails, things like that. But I think the main thing that's going on with this is that interesting like bracketing that's going on through the whole font, where everything kind of feels like it got the opposite of ink traps. You know, the ink kind of filled it in just a little bit, which could make it a little bit softer, make it feel a little bit, I don't know, maybe like a little less perfect, which makes it probably a little more human. My other nitpick is right here is this ampersand. And when you're zoomed in like this, the ampersand seems fine, but this is the bold weight right here. I feel like the ampersands are always just a little bit like they're one weight too light. So this is bold, this is extra bold. Doesn't it feel like it fits better at extra bold right there? Let me set it all to regular real quick. Now, if I set this to regular, I don't know, the ampersand feels a little bit light to me. Let me change it to semi-bold for you, or medium. I switch it to medium. Does that feel like it fits better? Maybe I'm crazy. Let me know. Let me know. I might be crazy. Maybe I'm just really, really nitpicking here. But I think it's a nice font. For $19, it's hard to complain about any of these things, but you know, we looked at Google Fonts a little bit ago. We looked at Adobe Fonts a little bit ago. There are options that cost less than $19. So, you know, anytime you're paying for something, you want it to be worth it. But I think that the Q that's an easy fix. You know, just push those pixels a little bit, or just push those anchor points a little bit over. And then the ampersand, I think would maybe could use, I don't know, maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine. Let me check chat and see what you guys think. Moven looks super clean. Don't really like the et sets. Yeah, not everyone's gonna please Jim with the et sets. We got a thumb down on the et sets from Jim, our resident et set expert. Does it look too light? Okay. So chat seems to agree that the ampersand feels a little too light. I think, and I could be wrong, I just feel like it's one weight off, because when you switch it up to medium right there, it feels more in line. It feels like it should, but I'm not sure. It might have to do with the contrast and stuff, you know, because there is a little bit of contrast in the font. So I don't want to tell a type designer what to do. I'm not a type designer. I'm a type user. I'm a type enthusiast, type journalist. But I'm a fan of this font. I'm a fan of the Foundry. I think it's pretty cool. You know, a Foundry, I don't, you know, name drop, but I feel like a Foundry that's working with Jessica Walsh, designing typefaces for Type of Feeling, probably has a little bit of street cred, and maybe this one is worth a look, because you know, if it's good enough for Type of Feeling for $19, maybe it's good enough for a lot of people that are watching here. I could definitely find a use case for this. I could definitely find a use case for it. I would nitpick and I would email the Foundry, but it's got a lot of language support, a lot of glyphs, a lot of alternates, a lot of OpenType features. You can see them on here. So I think there's a lot of value to be had in this one, even with a couple of nitpicks there. This is version 1.00000, so there have been no updates, literally just released. So there's always room for improvement on these things. The Q, Jim says he would have never noticed the Q. So yeah, I don't think a lot of people probably would, and maybe at small sizes it wouldn't even matter, but it's just a teeny bit off center, a tiny bit. Okay, let's move on. Next one here is much simpler, but no less fun. Probably maybe even more fun for some people. Our fifth new release here, we're going to count Zetafonts as all one release. Our fifth new release here is coming from Anna's Fonts, and this is called Postcards from Vienna. It's an SVG color font, so you can recolor this, but the reason it's SVG is so that you can have that texture in there. Let me read you a description on this one because I feel like it's apt. Postcards from Vienna is my latest font, inspired by the blue pen I bought during a trip to Vienna, which I used to fill my travel sketchbook. I loved its texture so much that I turned my handwriting into an SVG color font so that I could keep using it forever. Now you can too. My first fear with these is, oh no, are there going to be alternates? Fear not, there are alternates. There are 3 alternates for every letter, every number on here. So you can immediately see the N's in Vienna being different slightly. But we'll just scroll through some of these because it does come with a lot of, I'm not sure that it comes with these, but it does come with some illustrations as well, some dingbats and stuff. I'm not sure which ones it comes with. Jim says he would love a deep dive on ZT Moven. I originally planned to do a deep dive on it. I'll listen to you guys, whatever you guys want. If you would prefer that one over the Zetafonts, but this one here, Postcards from Vienna. I think that this looks really fun. I don't cover a lot of handwriting fonts on here because I think a lot of them don't really work. But look at Visiting right here inside of Museum's Courtier. All 3 of those eyes on there are different. That makes it feel like a real handwriting font, like it feels real. Like Dinner over here, the ends don't perfectly match. They feel like they're written by the same hand, but they don't perfectly match. And then I think the other thing going on here with that color SVG, it really does make it so you get that texture on there. So here's some stats right here. Oh, it looks like there might actually be other versions. SVG and vector versions, very nice. I'm not sure what the difference between that would be. Maybe she gives you an AI file or something. Regular, jumpy, and spaced out versions for fun options. That's interesting. I wonder what that looks like. Each font, this is what I was worried about. Each font includes 3 versions of each letter and number that appear randomly using the contextual alternates of OpenType features. Love to see it. Oh, bonus, here's what it is. 20 hand-drawn illustrations in PNG format with transparent backgrounds. Very nice. So I think this is a fun one. It's not what we typically look at. We're looking at a lot of, very standard typefaces, but I think this is a fun change of pace. And the best thing about it, $15. $15 for this one. I think it says that it's regular priced as, I think these are all the PNGs you get. So that's kind of fun. Probably sketches from her trip. So I'm a fan of this one. I'm a fan. It seems really fun. And for anyone that doesn't know how to change SVG color, which I'm sure anyone watching this does, there is a little tutorial video at the bottom. So like I said, $15 on this one right there, $15. Whoops. And it actually does link to this store page right here. It has a good, let me check. It has a good license on it. The one thing you do have to note is that if you want to use this, you can basically use it everywhere. The one thing that you do have to note is that if you're going to use this on the web, it needs to be rasterized, which is a little bit strange. But if you want a true web font for this, you can contact Anna and get that. But for $15, I wouldn't imagine that the web font would cost too much more. That is speculation. SVG is a vector file. I thought PNG is raster. PNG is raster. The illustrations, so these little extra illustrations are PNG, which are not going to be illustrated. Those are just, which aren't going to be vector. Those are just like a little bonus. But the font itself is an SVG color font. So SVG color fonts, they're just normal fonts, but SVG is just the color technology that it uses. I have some color fonts that are SVG color fonts in here. I'm not sure which ones are. I apologize. But we've looked at them in that Affinity 3.2 color font video. So they work just like normal fonts. They're, you know, OTF or TTF, but they have SVG color technology in them. I think let's hope this isn't let's hope this isn't like you have to click each letter. No, she's at OpenType technology, so there's got to be OTF on this one. Okay, let's move on. We've got one more, and this one we're absolutely doing a deep dive on next week, so fear not if I go through this one quickly. I'm going to show you the email release right here because I thought that, or the email announcement, because I thought this was interesting. This new release is going to be called Neurath. I think it's Neurath. I will learn for next week. Neurath Mono. This is coming from René Bieder Studio, designed by René Bieder, as you might imagine. Neurath Mono. Let me go ahead and read you this. Neurath Mono is a monospace typeface developed alongside Neurath, a contemporary interpretation of Futura. Here is that. And Neurath says it rethinks Futura with a more human approach, balancing geometric precision with warmth and clarity. Okay, let's go through this just really quick. Imagine a Futura, but a little more human. That's what this is. Now there is a monospaced release. And we're going to scroll through this in its full entirety, but let me show you this so you can get a vibe check. This might remind some of you of something we saw a few weeks ago. But what I find most interesting about this is the email newsletter, because it says Neurath Mono is the first step in a larger expansion of the Neurath collection, which with more releases to follow later this year. So I will be keeping my eyes open on this. Yeah, so it says inspired by the same reinterpretation of Paul Renner's Futura as Neurath. So this is a direct, lineage, direct inspiration, just made a little more human, and this is the monospace version. I find this really, really interesting because just a few weeks ago we were talking about PT Futura Mono, which is Paratype's Futura, which has existed for, I don't know, probably decades at this point. PT Futura is a typeface that I used when I was in school, so I know it's existed for a long time. Now there is there's a monospace version of this, so I think it'll be really cool to do a deep dive on this, see how it compares. Throw these up next to Futura, see how they look next to Futura. You can see already on this one here, the M's are a little bit less sharp. So it's not a direct, can you even call Futura a revival with how many times it's been remade at this point? But it's not like a perfect Futura, it's Futura reimagined. And then this is the reimagination of that as monospace. I'm interested to see what the other styles are that they're going to come up with, or the other subfamilies. But look how cool this looks in a grid. I think that looks really neat, and let's go ahead and scroll through this. We'll look at it a little bit. I'm really excited though to see how this looks next to compared to Paratype's Futura Mono, because that was one that I was really excited about, and this is similar but maybe doing things, I don't know, maybe this will appeal to people a little bit more, because I feel like Futura Mono by Paratype was very, very, oh gosh, I can't think of the word, very pure, very, very pure in the sense of they really stuck to the geometry. They really stuck to the legacy of Futura, and some of it was even more perfectly geometric than Futura itself. Whereas this has no intention of doing that. This is supposed to be more humanist, and I did see some alternates on this. Let me check. Yeah, we have a full trial on this one. I've already tested out a little bit. Full trial available on this one, so you can test this out too. You don't have to wait till next week. But look at the texture you're getting in this body copy. Man, that looks so much better than you would expect. I'm always surprised when a monospace looks good in body copy. Not because it shouldn't. We dealt with typewriters for decades, I guess. But the only thing I see on here is the commas look a little bit heavy, commas and the apostrophes. But the texture on this is really, really nice. I think this would be great in interfacing things like little grids and I don't know, anything like airports and stuff like that. I could see be really fun. I doubt they would use it for that, but any kind of signage or anything like that, maybe it would work for coding. We'll have to see. Looks like they've got some alternates right here. You're already seeing a bunch of the alternates. They've got alternate etcet. Jim, look at that lowercase one. It's really breaking it out there. You'll have to let me know what you think. Yeah, Jim, you tested out the PT Mono Paratype. Paratype's PT Futura Mono, And they were actually receptive. So anybody, you know, that does have feedback for Foundries, I would go ahead and give your feedback, even if they throw it away. You know, some of them might listen, but this looks pretty interesting. Okay, we have 2 deep dives to get into, and it's already, we've been doing this for an hour and 10 minutes, so let's go ahead and move on. This one here, expect to see next week. This is Neurath Mono from René Bieder, and I'm pretty excited about this one. And I'm excited to see what those other expansions are going to turn out to be. Maybe I'll reach out. Maybe we can get a preview. Maybe we can get a preview of what that might be. I am going to pull up all 3 of these, just like we did last week. And I'm going to close a bunch of these tabs. Let me see if I need to catch up on chat. Okay. Jim liked the alternate et set. I'm glad to see it. We'll take another look at it next week, and we'll look at it in different weights and stuff. I think it looked really cool, though. It was definitely different from anything I've seen. So I thought you might enjoy it. Can we tile these? Did I accidentally stack these or something? What did I do? Come on, Curtis. I'm going to close all of these, and then I'm going to reopen them. I apologize. 1 second. This one's coming from Lechuga type. We did look at this last week, but I'm going to tile these again. Okay, so this is Mestiza text on the left. That's the typeface we're going to be talking about. It is the 3rd and final addition to the Mestiza super family. Mestiza is this one in the middle. It's a display, kind of high contrast, display typeface with flared serifs on it. Mestiza Sans came out next, and it is a sans serif version of that. And now we have Mestiza text, which is a little bit chunkier, a little less contrast on it, and it seems really, really nice. So I'm going to pull up all 3 of these in Affinity right now, so we don't need to spend too much time on these websites. I just wanted to give you the basics here that, yes, this is a super family. There's a lot going on, and we're going to look at it all in Affinity. Let me get up here. Okay, so typically I start out with this page. Let me go ahead and give you the stats on it, and then I'm going to show you kind of the family history of it. But you could see there's a lot going on. We got small caps. We got all kinds of things going on with numbers and stuff. Let me give you the stats real quick. Lechuga type. This is Antonio Mejia's Lechuga's typeface. 12 styles on it. 6 Roman, 6 italic. It is static. 901 glyphs, 31 open type features, and you can purchase it from the Foundry. Although I will note, just like I did last week, that Mestiza and Mestiza Sans do have 4 styles available on Adobe Fonts, so it's possible we will see those in the future, similar to what we saw with Bold Monday just today. No trial on this, so I am using a review license that I requested and received. Can't use it for anything personal or commercial, but I can use it to review this font for you guys. Currently, there's a sale, and this is $118 on desktop, standard license. Okay, there's a lot here. I'm going to try and not stumble over my words, but what I want to show you first is how Mestiza looks, so we can get an idea of where this font family is coming from. And we'll be quick, but you can see these are very, very sharp. It has very, very sharp. It has some contrast to it, but very, very sharp serifs. Flared serifs are kind of the defining feature of this. That's the first thing you're going to notice. There are a lot of really fun curves. You can see it in the K here. We saw it in the A right there. I'll come back to that in a minute. And you can see some contrast in the M right there between the thick and the thin. 2 diagonals. See this little curve right here in the N? That goes through the whole font, and it's subtle in some of the others, but the N is where one spot where it really, really stands out. But yeah, you're getting the idea, right? It's got some fun stuff going on. Let me show you this in sans serif, and then we'll go to text and we'll do like a real A to Z on it. So this is the sans serif. It maintains that familial feeling, like it feels like it belongs together. You got the curves, you got you've got the same basic shapes and stuff. You got a little bit of flaring. It is sans serif, but you do have a little bit of flaring on there. Not quite as much as something like Optima, probably. I didn't put them side by side, but it doesn't feel that extreme. But it does have some, which I think is nice because it feels like it still belongs together. I think this might feel a little bit too neutral without that. But this looks really nice. You can see even the Q. So that Q up here, sorry about all the zooming in and out. I'll try to be a little slower. See this Q right here with the tail that's a little flowing and it's got the sharp point on it. That Q matches down here in the sans serif, which you know, sometimes you might not do that because they'd be more of a pair, but these are really, really, really very close siblings, I guess you could say. They're not cousins, they are siblings. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the text version, since that's what we're here to see, now that you've got an idea of what we're doing. This has, gosh, I think we're gonna do it right here. This has just slightly chunkier serifs on it. So I've got them side by side right here. You can see the A sharp pointy serifs, and these are blocked off a little bit more transitional, a little bit more normal. So that's the main difference. I think the X height is a little bit higher on the text version. Let me check it real quick because I forget. Let's pull this up. Oh yes, it's a little bit higher and it's a little bit wider. The characters are all just a little bit wider. So you're getting spacing within the font family itself. You can see how much wider text is in the middle. See how much wider and how much more room it takes up than Sans or Mestiza. It's got more spacing between the letters. The letters themselves are wider and the letters themselves are taller. So you're really getting all of the optical adjustments that you would expect from a text size. Okay, with all of that, we can finally get to the A to Z. Hopefully you guys like some of this nerdy stuff. If not, feel free to use the chapters and come back during the replay. Let's go through the A to Z here. One thing I will note is that these little corners are kind of chopped off. So you get the serifs, you get like the flat serifs on there, but you also get a lot of corners that are kind of chopped off, making it just a little bit softer and a little bit sturdier at small sizes, rather than let that ink bleed out into little points and who knows what might happen. They solved that, just chop off little corners. You'll note the green glyphs are going to be alternates. So we've got an alternate K on there. So if you don't like that, that leg right there, I've got another leg for you. But it's neat. You know, it looks pretty similar to what we just looked at. We're gonna have alternate Qs, and you can see how much less contrast is in that Q, which at these big sizes, you know, we're looking at this way too big. You got to remember this is gonna be teeny tiny. It's gonna be like this big when you're actually reading it. You want that to have less contrast. So while this looks a little bit less elegant at these close sizes, that's what you want from a text font. Here is the etset, uppercase, for Jim Girth. Daryl says, I really like Mestiza, but don't like the X cross strokes not being aligned. Okay, we'll look at that. Here is this one. Were you talking about the italics? This font's so deep that we have to get to the italics still. We're going to get to alternates for that ampersand as well. Let me check the X up here. Were we talking about this? I'll let you comment and I'll come back to it. Small caps. I love small caps. If you're doing a text typeface, please have small caps. Actually, all three of these, I do believe, have small caps. Let me go ahead and try to change this real quick. We'll just change it to Mestiza Sans. Mestiza Sans also has small caps. So all three of these are going to have small caps. But since we're looking at the text, we're going to look at the text. I'll just go through these super fast. You can see what it is. You'll also note, though, that the K here does not have an alternate. So some of these alternates don't exist that exist in uppercase. The lowercase or the small caps, they're going to have what they have. But the etset does have an alternate. Lowercase here. Okay, Daryl's talking about the lowercase x. We'll get to it in 1 second then. Perfect timing. We are on the lowercase. And you'll see we've got some ink traps built in here, which is nice to see. And then you'll also see the corners of these serifs kind of chopped off a little bit there. But I think the lowercase looks nice. Nice tall X height on it, which can be nice for reading it at small sizes. And it maintains a lot of the same, you know, it really does maintain the same family feel that we just saw with Mestiza and Mestiza Sans. But just a little lower contrast, a little higher X height, and just better for text sizes, as one would expect. Oh wait, we missed the X. There it is. The X, not aligned. Yeah, so they're doing that optical illusion thing where they break the X up. Maybe they pushed it a little bit too far. Maybe that's a stylistic choice. Typically, you do that when it's a little higher contrast and you get that optical illusion. Let's see how it looks in black. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't have a problem with it, but I appreciate that my opinion is not everyone else's opinion. So maybe at small sizes, that wouldn't, maybe that's like a small size thing. Let's go back up and look at, so what Daryl is talking about, for anybody watching the replay, is, whoops, not that. Goodness gracious, gotta make it more ugly. What Daryl's talking about is this. Boom, not lining up. So if you follow this line here, it should follow, but in order to solve the optical illusion with a lot of fonts with like D-tones and high contrast stuff, you break up that diagonal so that they look like they match up, even though they technically don't. You want them to optically appear to match up. This one, they pushed it further, and it's very obvious that they don't match up. It doesn't solve the optical thing, you know, it pushes further. Let's see if the display size is a little closer. Could be a spacing thing, could be a stylistic thing. Yeah, so that might be a deal breaker for some people. Let's look at the figures here. Very nice numbers. And of course, this one comes in old style. The old style, actually the default on this one, since it's a text font, you're probably going to want the old style to write inline text, but it does have the lining numerals as well. So you're not stuck with one and the other, and I think both of those look very nice. Let me show you these features on the bottom just before I move on. You can see the slashes there. That means the fractions either will or won't work. Let's see. Boom. They work in the text version. They work in the old style version, but for whatever reason, the lining numerals do not work with fractions. I think that would be the one time that you'd really, really want them to work. So I'm not sure. A little bit of an issue there. It seems fractions seem to be a tough one for people. I could say maybe this is how they want the fractions to work, because you'll note that slash there, it does move up to the baseline. It goes to the baseline and the cap height. So that might be intentional. I can completely respect designer's decision if that is intentional, but this is what I would expect to see. So if you want these fractions right here, you would need to be in old style, but at least you have the choice. You could kind of do them like this, but I don't know when I would ever do them on the line like that. That doesn't look good to me. The other thing is this arrow right here. I put this here to remind myself, because this is not, let me go ahead and just space this out real quick. I didn't have to put this here. I didn't put the in there right. How should I say this? I didn't have to do anything special to put this arrow here. The open type features, if you do a dash plus the little greater than symbol, maybe you have to type them together. You type them together. You can't delete the space. If you type them together like that, it does the arrows exactly for you. So we can go ahead and do it the other way as well. Boom. I don't know how you do the top arrows, but you could go into the glyphs and do them that way as well. Let's look at italics real quick, and then we're going to look at the alternates, because the alternates are all the same. I'm not going to go over them twice, and we'll go through this fast. We'll look at uppercase and small caps at the same time, because these usually aren't too much different or too exciting. Boom, there we go. That easy. Let's look at the lowercase, because this is where we're getting a little bit more variety. You can see quite large ink traps in these right here, and pretty strong angle on it, so I don't think you have any problem picking these out in a line of text. I like the F that hangs below the baseline. That's very nice for your italics. And we're seeing a lot of the same, characteristics and stuff carried over. You can see the etset going below the baseline there as well. And once again, XYZ. Numbers don't really matter that much. But let me show you this. It does have manicules. These don't have like an easy way to put them in. You're going to have to go into your glyphs and do it, but I thought they were nice. They don't look, I feel like they're fitting. They're not super detailed or anything, and it's made for text sizes, so you're going to be putting it small, and I think looks nice and neat when it's small. Let's look at some alternates, guys. We're finally going to get there. I mentioned this K. Let's see. Let's go ahead and look at the K individually. They do have these split out, so the stylistic sets over here on the left are individual letters, which I love to see. Alternate K. Can I get it? Alternate K. It's got a little tail for the leg. Very nice. Let's see. We've got an alternate R and Q and the etset. So we'll do the Q. You can get a nice long tail on the Q there. You can get a little tail on your R, so you can make the R and the K match, but you can do them individually, so you don't have to make them both match at once. This is an upgrade over Mestiza. Let me show you this real quick. Mestiza does all of these at once, so it does them kind of as a set. So if you want like the tails on the K, the R, and the Q, you got to do them. You're doing them all at once, or you're going in and highlighting a letter, and I don't know. That's gonna be I don't know, an interesting problem to solve. those are display styles, so I mean, you're going to give your displays a little bit more love, I guess, but I would love to see them broken out like they are in Mestiza text. No super long tails, so you just saw the tail going below the baseline on the K and the R. Those don't exist in text, and I wouldn't... Oh, wait, they do exist in text. I lied. Boom. Super long tail on the K. Boom. Super long tail on the R. Okay, Curtis is dumb. There they are right there. So you've got two alternates for the K. We've got a long K. Here's the standard one with like the big bowing leg on it. We've got the little tail there, the little kick, and then we've got a long one that goes below the baseline. Nice. That could be fun to start your paragraphs or something. This is text, so I don't think you'll be using that a ton, but I could see some formal invitations or something, someone's special name, some kind of title or something that's not going to be big but needs to look fancy. And we have an alternate etset. This is the first time I've ever seen an alternate etset. We did see one on the preview earlier. This is the uppercase, right? Yeah, this is the uppercase. We did see one on a preview for another font we're going to look at next week, but here's the alternate etset for uppercase. I don't know a lot about this, but I do think this is nice that it gives you something that's a little bit more differentiating from the lowercase, because typically when we see the lowercase etset, it is very rounded like that. So just having something that's even a little more distinct, where it's blocked off like that, I think that's nice. Jim, or any other Germans that want to chime in, let me know what you think about that. But for me, I could see that being useful because it just differentiates itself a little bit more from other rounded etsets, which might look like the lowercase. Very cool though. It has an alternate even for the small cap. So I was very excited when I saw the small cap etset before. Now we've got a small cap etset with an alternate. Let's check out this ampersand here. Jim likes the alternate legs quite a bit on the K and the R, I'm assuming. Yeah, these are nice. They feel a little more friendly, I think. Just a little kick, a little friendly kick on the letter in front of you. Yeah, those are nice. I agree. And then the long ones, the long ones just gives it a little more versatility. Alternate etset here. I like both of these, but I do think I like, tough choice. I think I like the alternate a little bit more. I think I debated this when I looked at it the first time. I'm debating again, but I do think I like the alternate a little more. Let's set them side by side. Let's just put these side by side. We'll change one of them. Boom. And you guys can let me know which one you like more. The one on the right feels a little bit like, I don't know, my brain's not working, but it feels a little bit like a treble clef or something. The one on the left, a little more traditional, I guess, maybe. You can kind of see a little bit of a remnant of the T there. Yeah, let me know which one you guys like better. Last alternate here we have is the lowercase a. And I found it. Lowercase a, just a single story rather than the two story on that one. Going to be a little more cohesive, but a little less legible. You'd probably stick with the default right here in most of your text. Okay, we already went over the numbers and stuff. We already went over the fractions, and you guys saw the small caps. Daryl likes both of them. Hey, fair enough. Use one for one thing, one for another. They both look nice, and it's not like they're super different. They both definitely fit in with the family. So yeah, they both look nice. If I had to choose, yeah, it's a tough choice. It's a really, really tough choice. My gut instinct is the one on the right, but I do like the default one on the left as well. Okay, we already looked at the italics. Let me show you a little bit more that this thing can do, because we saw those tails and or the long R's and K's and stuff like that. Jim Gert said that that it reminded him of a treble clef a little bit as well, so I feel a little vindicated now. There it is. Okay, so there are some ligatures in here, uppercase and lowercase, and I'm not going to turn these on and off for you, but I just wanted to show you they do have them for italics and for the Roman. They're both going to be matching. But you will note that with the true italics, you're getting quite a different vibe between these F italic or these F ligatures and these F ligatures. Let me just get all of this on the screen for you right here so you can get a good look at it. I'm going to get a drink of water while we're stopped here. Obviously, many of these are discretionary, not standard, because there aren't too many times you're going to be connecting your C's, your S's like this, but I do think the F's are quite practical. And these right here are kind of neat. What they're doing is they're pumping the letter next to it up just a little bit. So even if you were, even if you're using that long K there, you can get, you can get this a little bit higher. How does this work if you're doing, I don't know, if you're doing something like this? I mean, whoops, let's get an uppercase here. I don't know. Some people might like that. I don't know that it's for me. But maybe in certain languages, the KE and KA and stuff like that, maybe these are more useful to where there would be a reason that you would use them by themselves and you wouldn't be putting another uppercase right after it. But yeah, I think all this looks nice. Let's see how it looks as it's intended in text. We've been spending all this time looking at the details. The one thing that really, really matters is how it looks in text. And here it is right here. Let me go ahead and zoom in on this a little bit. I'll let you sit and look at it at its actual text size first, and then we'll zoom in a little bit. We've got regular here. We've got a little bit of italic, and we forgot to put our bold in there. Let me fix this for us. We'll put digital age in bold as we usually do. Regular, medium, bold. There we go. Stands out very nicely. So I think in text, this looks great. I mean, it should. That's why it exists. But the small caps look great. They work perfectly side by side with the lowercase. The spacing is really nice. The italics, they stand out. They stand out well. The bold stands out well as well. You could get even heavier than that if you wanted to, but no reason to do that. That looks great to me. It does take up quite a bit more space. As we saw before, we saw the spacing and stuff like that. It's got they're wider letters. They're taller. The X height's a little taller, and the spacing is a little bit wider as well. We've got Mestiza text in the middle. On the left, we have Mestiza. On the right, we have Mestiza sans. Probably should have put those on the titles instead, but I do think having these three titles matching makes a certain point before we look at the body copy. While this might look fine in a vacuum, when you look at it next to Mestiza text or Mestiza, you see the difference between the display and the text, right? Like one of these just looks nicer at bigger sizes, and it's the one on the left. Mestiza, likewise, Mestiza sans here, I feels like is just a little bit more appropriate for these bigger sizes. Can Mestiza sans and Mestiza look good in body copy? Whoa, yeah, it's got a little bit of a flare to it. Let me double check. I think that's Mestiza. One second. Let me double check all of these now. That's Mestiza text, that's Mestiza. Okay, I made a goof there. Can Mestiza sans look good in body copy? Yeah, I think this looks fine. And prior to Mestiza text, Mestiza and Mestiza sans were the only two in the family. I think this would be the logical choice. It doesn't have those super sharp serifs or anything, but the spacing and stuff is still designed for display. So most of the times people were using other fonts other than Mestiza. Now you could keep it all in the family. Likewise, I think I really need to learn what text fonts, what fonts look good in text sizes, because I was telling Evie earlier in the week that I really think if I didn't see text, I would look at this and I would be like, yeah, that looks good. I don't see any dark spots. It looks fine. There are some high contrast points, but I would think this can work. But then you set it side by side with the one that's made for text, and you're like, oh no, the text version in the middle here looks so much better at actual text sizes than the display one. And but until you see them side by side, maybe you would have the same thought as me. I don't know. It's something, we're always still learning. When you really zoom out and you get this at a real text size, we get it to here, you can see immediately both of them on the left and the right, Mestiza sans and Mestiza, fall apart while Mestiza text here stays strong. It almost feels like the two on the side there are blurry, like we've done a focal change or something, because one of these still works at really small sizes, and it's Mestiza text, which was designed to do exactly that. So I think that this is a great demonstration of why text sizes and display sizing exist. One last little fun thing here. I noted that this just had a touch of ITC Bengat. And, I do think, I didn't reach out and ask, but I do think there is a little bit of inspiration here. We've got ITC Bengat in the middle. We've got Mestiza on top and Mestiza sans, or Mestiza text, I apologize, our font today, Mestiza text on the bottom there. And if you wrote any three of these in these three different fonts and you showed it to a friend that knows nothing about text, I think they wouldn't even notice that it wasn't the same font. Obviously, Stranger Things also, they squish these G's in, so they squish the G's up against the N, so this isn't like a real logo or anything, just the same font that they use. But I do think there are some similarities here. Obviously, ITC Bengat has those the serifs that are a little bit more like the text version, but the text version is just a little bit too chunky. So somewhere between the Mestiza display up top and the Mestiza text on bottom. If you could get an in between there, I think you'd be much closer. But obviously there are a lot of differences. But it's just interesting that there is a little bit of a inspiration, or a little bit of similarity at least. Jim Girth says, I actually wanted to write that earlier as well. It reminds me of the Stranger Things font. Yeah, there we go. Sometimes you don't know why things feel familiar. Yeah, because the one thing that I really think why this might have been influenced is that A right there with the little swoop through it, or the little, I don't know how you say, like the Boeing sort of curved crossbar that's on the A. That's ITC Bengat right there. But you can see the opposite, but similar concept being used in Mestiza. So I think it could be a cool, it could be a cool way to combine these. Like say you wanted to use ITC Bengat because you wanted it to feel retro and old. Now you really have like a nice font to pair it with. Like you could pair it with Mestiza Sans and it's going to feel right at home. Yeah, you might even be able to use all three of these if you really wanted to. But yeah, if you wanted something that was similar to ITC Bengat, but a little less like Art Nouveau, a little bit less like high-waisted, because this is really high-waisted. Look how high the crossbar is on the H here. You're getting into normal territory here with Mestiza. So if you wanted that ITC Bengat feel, but you wanted it to feel like 2026 or 2022, whenever this was originally released, I forget, you could use something like this. And so I think there are some options, and I think it's nice to see when typefaces are similar and you can kind of think of ways that you might pair them. But that is going to be it for Mestiza text. We've got one more deep dive to go through, but I think this is an easy recommend right here. Mestiza text currently on sale for $119 on desktop, 12 styles. It is static, but you've seen it's got a ton going on. Daryl says, I like Mestiza better than ITC Bengat. Yeah, I can see that. I can see why. Okay, there it is. Thumbs up all around. One last deep dive here. This one's going to go a little bit quicker, but we also looked at this one last week, and I did get permission to listen to, or to play the YouTube video that goes along with this one. So I'm going to put on my headphones. 1 second. Let me get these on. We're going to be looking at WeType's new release, Bengat. Let me get my headphones connected so that I can play the sound and you guys will hear it, but it won't go through the microphone. There we go. Okay. Let me know if this is too loud. We're just going to watch it. I will note before it starts, the audio is not amazing. The music is a little bit loud compared to the voices, so it might be a little bit hard to hear. And if this doesn't play, then I guess we'll have to skip it. But I think we're getting ready to go. Okay, I'll go ahead and make this full screen for us. This is WeType's Bengat. Benang. I apologize. WeType's Benang.
In an old thread factory in Bandung, traditional working practices still live on. One of them is found in the administrative office, where data and instructions are recorded entirely by hand, through handwritten notes instead of digital systems. These marks aren't just artifacts, they're tools. They carry routines, rhythms, and the social context behind the message. By closely observing this writing practice, we designed Benang, a typeface that archives a visual language shaped by the thread industry and passed down through generations of administrators. It treats typography as a cultural record, a trace of labor, process, and time. More than a font, Benang is a living imprint of collective memory.
Wow, his voice is so much more calming than mine. I apologize. You have to listen to me after listening to him. I'm going to play this one more time, and I'm going to talk over it a little bit because I'm going to pause at a few different places just so we can see. I'll mute it, but then I'll play it. Take off my headphones. Hopefully everybody could kind of hear or at least read that. And I'm just going to go through and pause on a few places as we go. But yeah, this is WeType's Benang. I apologize. We were talking about ITC Bengat, and I kept saying Bengat over and over. This is inspired by, as he said, the handwritten records and instructions and stuff that are in these Indonesian thread factories, which you guys know that I'm a sucker for a story that goes with a typeface. And I'm just going to pause on a few of these little spots. Not all of them are like directly, like one-to-ones. None of these are going to be one-to-ones. But I'm just going to pause on a few different sections here. Some of them look more similar to the font we're going to look at than others. But you can see these handwritten things all over the place. These, I think, look the most like it. And I wish that there was a better still for these, but that's about as good as we're going to get. You can see some of these lining up with the rulers. This one here, they are putting a ruler down and then they're writing with it. And you can see, look at that. So there's a script version and then there's a sans version of this. And the script version is going to have that line that connects them on the bottom. So keep that in mind. See, it's just like one frame. We got to go back and pause. There it is right there. Writing on the ruler there. And we'll probably just look at one or two more. Yeah, these are here. That's a good one to finish on. So you can see where this typeface is coming from. I got permission this time. YouTube might still try to ding me, but we should be okay because WeType let me know that they would go ahead and give me the okay on this one. So we looked at this webpage last week. So I'm just going to scroll through it super quick, and then we're going to get into Affinity and do our deep dive on this one. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Let me know what you guys think about the video as well. I'll give you some details. We don't have as much to like go back and forth on this one. It's a little bit more straightforward. It's a display typeface, but it's doing some really fun stuff. And I think it has, I think it packs a little bit more of a punch than you might think at first glance. And even with the limited details I'm about to tell you right now, the limited stats, it feels like it's doing much more than it should be able to. So WeType, I am not going to try to pronounce all these names. I apologize. John Kudos, that's who I've been talking to back and forth. That's who supplied this review license. Once again, I do have a review license on this. This does have a trial, but it's going to be limited. So 40 total styles on this. There are 20 for sans and 20 for script, and then there are italics for each of those. So it's like 10, 10, 10, 10. Variable, 2-axis, 161 glyphs to 316 glyphs, depending on which one you're talking about. So the sans is going to have 161. Script is going to have 316. Likewise, 8 and 11 open type features. You can purchase this from the Foundry. Purchase from the Foundry, limited trial. 1,200 for the full family on desktop. That's going to be a little bit of sticker shock to some of you, I'm sure, as it was to me. We'll get into that at the end. But let's judge the font just on its own merits for now, and we'll talk about the price a little bit later. Daryl, I appreciate it. Okay, so this is Benang right here. We saw the video. I think they do a really good job. It's very cinematic. I think that they set the tone for it much better than I could. Let me go ahead and show you these variable features because this is fully variable. There is a weight slider. Boom. You can go all the way to hairline, all the way up to 10 styles, 10 weights later, get it to black. So you've got 10 total weights, hairline up to black. And I think you could do some fun display stuff with that. Let's get this back down to like 500. Probably 400 is better, but 500 is fine. And then we get the italic slider as well. So it's a real italic slider, not true italics. Obviously, you can't do true italics with a slider. But they are slanting these on the italics. So that could be fun to do. I mean, maybe you want to like stick it somewhere in the middle. You could do that. I would almost never do that, but maybe you could. I think it's more interesting for like animating stuff. You know, you could use that for UI, roll over something, make it turn italic. I don't know if that's ever a thing you'd want to do, but you could also just animate it in a video. Okay, so those are those. Let me go ahead and show you a script. It's not too much different, but it's got this line going across the baseline. I apologize, it's a little bit ugly because they have so many. Let's go ahead and switch this just for right now. They have so many alternates that the whole text is almost green, but you can see what's happening here. Even with an A to Z, they're connecting really, really smoothly. This is a display font. I don't expect it to be for everybody, but I do think it's kind of fun what they're doing. Let's go ahead and do an A to Z on this. I'm going to set this back to a regular weight. It's on medium right now. Let's go regular. So very rounded. There's kind of a contrast here between the rounded and the sharp edges. So you can see some of the inner joints here are very, very rounded, not like a little rounded, very rounded. And then the sharp points are just, hard angle, rounded. So we've got a very squishy B there, but any of these that are green, they're going to be alternates for if you hate one of these green characters or these green glyphs, just know there is an alternate that you might like a little bit better. Daryl says, not a fan of the underline on the script, but otherwise looks great. I will show you something that might change your mind, but I'm completely understand why that might be the case. I think that it works a little bit better at display for like short little things than it does for like writing out kind of how I have it with the A to Z. But you guys can see what's going on. It's really funky. It draws a lot of direct inspiration from that handwriting. So it's definitely very unique. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this. I threw a few extra things on here just to kind of fill the space, if I'm being honest. But I did want to see how they handled some symbols because it's easy, not necessarily easy, but it's relatively easy to do a display A to Z. But then you have to think about like, how am I actually going to do punctuation and things like that? So the $, you can build it from your S, the @ symbol. You could pull it from your A. And then, just got the exclamation and the question mark there. But I wanted to see if they're doing anything weird with them because they're kind of doing some weird stuff with some of these others. But they're pretty standard if we're being honest. For the font. Lowercase, I think this is probably the one standout that I was looking for an alternate for that doesn't exist. And it's that lowercase e. But if you look at the video, that's what everyone was doing with their lowercase e's. They were drawing that kind of like cursive uppercase E, but they were doing it for the lowercase. Somebody else can let me know if that's got some origins. But look at these, look at the H, the K, the M, the N. They've got a really interesting angle there. I think in context, you won't have necessarily a problem with legibility, but if you didn't know, this almost looks like a backwards N. There are some alternates that solve that. But I'm sure it could be a little confusing for some people, but that's probably not what you're going for here. You're going for style points. You're not going for legibility with this one. You're going for fun. You're going for, trying to draw attention. And I think you're going to get that out of it. Okay, I don't think we need to look at script. I'm probably not going to come back to script until we get to the bottom. Just know the script has the line going through the bottom. There's not too much different going on there. But what I am going to do is look at all these alternates because there was a crazy amount of them. Luckily or unluckily, depending how you want to look at it. Luckily for me, I can click one button and change most of these. But unluckily, if you wanted to just change one, you can't do each letter individually. I'm clicking stylistic set 1 and it's changing all of these at once. So if you only wanted to change the O's and you wanted that curly O, you're going to have to set some rules or something. Like it's going to be really hard to just change just the O because it comes in this full set right here. So I don't love that. I like it for for me being able to show you these really fast right now, but for usability, that's not something that I want. I want them to be broken out so that I can do it on a per character basis. Jim Gurr says it looks like an epsilon. But I'm not sure if that's where this comes from. Yeah, it does kind of look like an epsilon, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm not sure either. I don't know like the history of Latin characters in Indonesian thread shops or thread factories. So I'm probably not one to speak on that. Should have asked the Foundry. I apologize. I'm learning, guys. I'm learning. But one nice thing here with the alternates is you can see these are changing quite a bit. You can get much more legible, much more traditional with these. They've still got a unique character to them, but they're not quite as dramatic. So I think that could be useful. I'm just going to kind of go through these in little clusters. You can see the EFG right here changing. But unfortunately right now, all of these are connected. That would be one thing that I would like to see in the update if they do one. But for now, like I said before, when you're working with display stuff, this is how Mestiza was as well. Mestiza text was broken out, but Mestiza is not. I think when you're working with display, you could probably go in and just edit, the different characters for your headlines and stuff. We'll just do the RS by itself. RS. So what are we getting on the R there? We're getting a little bit of a different oh, it's like the B, so it's getting much more traditional, getting a more normal R there. The S gets really crazy. A lot of these get a little more normal where it would be more balanced. This one gets even less balanced. But this is a direct reference to what we saw in the video where the S's were being drawn like this with the straight, really hard line across the baseline there, across that ruler that they were using. So almost done with the uppercase here. Just getting rid of that point at the bottom there, and we've got a Y and a Z. I think the Y gets, once again, more traditional, and then the Z here with the line through it is going to separate it from any possible twos. So we got the 2 and the Z right here. You turn on your stylistic set, and you're getting a very different Z and a very different 2. No alternates here. This is one reason why I put the dollar there, because I wanted to see if the dollar would change with the S. So you can see we've got this really sharp S over here. The dollar doesn't change. Lowercase, doing a similar thing here as the uppercase. Probably don't need to go through these in too much depth. S's changing the same way you would expect it to. And then we already saw some of these numbers, but I'll go ahead and show you again. I think this 7 kind of goes the opposite direction. So these are the default numbers right here. They're kind of doing the opposite with some of these where they're getting a little bit wackier. The 1, straight line, some people might want that. The 2 gets the curly and the 7 gets curly. I think the 2 is fun and I would recognize that. But the 7, out of context, this 7 might be, I don't know. It could be, it could be anything. It feels like it's going to be the British pound, but then it doesn't end up being it. But it's fun. I'm sure that all of these have references to those, to the thread shops that we looked at. So I'm not going to go too harsh on any of these being illegible or something like that. Like I feel like this really does serve another purpose other than just being a font. And fonts should be usable, obviously, but I do feel like it should be accurate to what they're paying homage to and what they're trying to archive, since that was kind of the goal that they were going with. These right here, I think, okay, we had a little bit of differing here. So Daryl didn't like the underlines as much, but Jim loves the underline on the script. Definitely add as a display font though, yes. Yeah, so I agree. If we were setting the body copy, okay, so I wrote all these out here. That's fine. I just put these here so you can kind of see what they all look like at once. Not too different, right? Like it's basically the same. They have the underlines going there. But if we were looking at this in body copy, just to tease this for a second, this is the italic. I guess we haven't really even looked at the italic other than before. This is the italic. Let me go ahead and change this to the script. And you're going to see the script is, it's not good at this. But look at it in typography on Wikipedia. I kind of like that vibe. Look at it in this IDK. I kind of like that vibe. Even better than anything I'm putting out here. Look at it in this render that they made. I think that's really what this is for. That's the first thing I thought of. I mentioned this last week. I thought of like car badges, and then you get to the bottom of their webpage, and this is what's on there. I think stuff like this could be really cool, and I think that this could be, I'm kind of skipping to the end here, but I think this could be a really cool font in the hands of someone that was like, that really had a feel for this font, like really understood what it was capable of, and then really understood, had like a real vision for it. So like if you had a real vision for what you wanted this font to be, I think you could do a lot of stuff with the combinations that you have available to you. We're kind of skipping ahead. So I do think that it excels at doing this kind of stuff, but this is a little bit boring. Like this looks fine. You could do headlines in that, but then you get it in the script one, and I don't know, these look better, right? We were looking at these two like that. So I do think there are situations where the script can really pull a lot of character. And let me actually switch the case on this. Capitalization, lowercase. I think you're getting something really interesting when you go all lowercase like they did in their render. So you could zoom in on any one of these. Monospace, italic. Like, it's kind of like what we looked at last week, where you can almost get like a logo out of any one of these. Obviously, it's not going to work for every single brand, but it's almost like a cheat. I don't know. I don't know that Romans working that well. Some of the letters work better than others, but quotation doesn't look bad. Yeah, I think that this works well at italic. So this is just the bold like that. Like, that looks fine. But I think with like a little bit of movement to it and a little bit of heft to it. So if we put it in the heaviest one, black italic, throw it in all lowercase, I think you're getting somewhere then. Let's see what chat says. Yeah, Jim says the IDK could be a logo. Daryl says the R and C on the word uppercase looks so similar. Let's check it out. Yeah, so as I'm saying, not all of them are working here, are they? Maybe they're being a little bit too dogmatic. Maybe the R shouldn't have the line under it. Let's see if there's an alternate for this one. Oh, there's an alternate, guys. There's an alternate R there. So you could kind of see this is again, this goes back to what I was saying. Like, I think in the right person's hands, if you really had a good feel for this and you had a vision for it, I think you could probably make this work much better than, I'm doing in a few seconds right here, where you could break some of these up. Then you're kind of looking like up per case. It looks like 3 words. I probably wouldn't do that. So yeah, there are limitations. There are limitations to any font. And definitely the legibility here is lacking. But when you combine all of this with, let's just throw on the first set of alternates, make this nice and big for you. Boom. You start throwing on like alternates, defaults. Let's do it with this one. You start throwing on the alternates. I think they work a little better on the, oh, I did stylistic sets. That's why. Boom. Stylistic sets. You start throwing on the stylistic sets and you can kind of really shake things up. I mean, you're going to have to do a lot of work on it. I'm not going to deny that. I think you're going to have to do quite a bit of work to make it work for you. But I think if you were to put in the time on this one, you could get it. Now we come back to the big elephant in the room, right? Is it, by the way, not made for body copy? I think this looks kind of fun for texture. I'd probably only use it for texture. But let's go ahead and return to where I was going with this one. The $1,200 price tag. I mentioned it last time. I did mention it in the new release video, and John reached out from WeType and said, about the price tag, you don't have to buy every weight. And while that's true, as just a baseline or as a benchmark, that's just the number we always go with. We always go with the full family. What's the full family price tag on desktop for the lowest number of seats? So like, what's the cheapest full family desktop that we can get? Let me go back to the website real quick. So I can show you this as we check out. And it is true. It is true. You don't have to buy you don't have to buy all 40 weights. I think realistically, a lot of people could get away with way less weights because I don't know, even if you were going to do like this here, maybe you wanted a logo, you wanted this IDK logo. Do you need this in every weight? No, you don't need it in like italic, extra light italic and all these other weights. You just need it in the one you need it for. So if that's what you were doing, you need one weight that's like 30 or 40 bucks. Let me check. Where's the buy button? Buy Benang. Yourself, smallest company in size, which is going to be 3 people, desktop. So the full family is 600 for Sans and 600. Oh no, they're 500. Okay, so 1100. You get a $100 discount if you buy them. But if you want the variables for 600 each, which is the only way to get the variable, you only get the variable if you buy the variable. No discount for those. 600 bucks each, $1,200 for the full family on desktop. That's the benchmark for Objectives Typography News. That's what it is. But if you just wanted one style, if you just wanted that bold italic script, $40. $40 for a logo, that's a great price as long as the desktop license includes it. I didn't check that, but they don't have a logo license here, so I'm assuming it probably does. Anyway, Yes, that's true. That's true. You can just buy a single weight. But if we're talking about this as a family, and we're talking about this, you know, if you want the variable, you gotta buy the whole thing. Maybe someone like Daryl doesn't love the script. They don't like the underline, so they can just spend the 600 and get the sans to get the variable. But you still got to spend $600 to get a display font. And for some people, that's not going to be a problem, obviously. But for other people, it will be. And I think that that's a justified critique. I think the counter to that would be that this is very unique. I've never seen something like this. I didn't know anything about Indonesian thread factories. I think they've done a great job presenting this. And I think, like I said, I'm probably not even scratching the surface of everything that this can do. You can see the ligatures and stuff they've got going on. These look much nicer than the stuff that I presented you in Affinity just now. I think if you had someone that really understood the font, was really skilled with it, and you had, this was going to be like your brand font, I don't think like paying $600 for an identity is the end of the world. I don't think paying $40 for like a logo font is the end of the world, for sure. So, you know, I'm fine with the free market. People pay what they want to pay for. People charge what they want to charge. As long as everyone's happy, I'm happy too. This is a really cool font. For me, you know, the price tag doesn't match, but for someone else, if the price tag matches, I don't think you'll be disappointed with this. I think it punches way above its weight class in terms of like these right here. If I saw a font with 161 glyphs and 8 open type features, I'd be like, $600? Wait, what? But you know, that's it. That's Benang. That's Benang. I don't want to drag this out too long. Let me turn my face on, and I've got one more thing to show you. I appreciate anyone still hanging out. I know it's getting late, and I know that I drone on with these deep dives, but that's why I keep them at the end. So anybody that doesn't want to see the deep dives, they can skip out at the end and not sit through these big long videos. I didn't ask, but I don't think it's going to be a problem to show you a little bit of this. This is our final story. This is a video to send you off with. This is BLAG, Better Letters Magazine. We did a flip through on the channel of this one. And let me just make this a little bit over here so I can still have my, whoops, hold on. Actually, let's max this out. I'm not going to block anything. This is the editor, Sam Roberts, doing a flip through of this. He said he was inspired by my flip through. Love to see it. And I apologize, it only goes up to 720p, but he does a flip through of the newest issue. I did my flip through of issue 8. This is issue 9. And he's doing a full flip through of it and doing it much more concisely, doing it in like 5 minutes. But this was the magazine that was all about sign painting. So Better Letters Magazine, BLAG for short. It was really cool. I think my live stream was only like 20 minutes that day. But you know, he gets through it even faster and much more eloquently than I did. But I really enjoyed this magazine whenever I had the copy I don't have this one yet. It only came out a week ago. But I think that he does a good job of presenting it and talking about it with, you know, the authority of someone who understands it much better than me. So something fun to send you off with. It's not on YouTube. It's on like a self-hosted PeerTube, Better Letters, but no problem with that. You won't have to watch an ad if you don't have YouTube Premium, at least. It does look like there's some other stuff on here too, like some chats and stuff. So you might want to check out some of the other videos that he's got on there. I do know he's moving away from like mainstream social media and platforms and stuff and trying to become more in the Fediverse, typo.social and PeerTube and stuff like that. So let me get the big face cam on here and we will get out of here. There I am. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Hopefully, you know, I'm always open to criticism. I never know how these things are going to go. I think there was a lot of great stuff to talk about this week. Let me know what I could have improved on or moved through faster though. But also let me know which of the Zetafont alphas you want to see deep dives on next week, because there are 6 really good ones, 5 that I'm really interested in. But whatever you guys choose is what I'm going to do. So there seems to be votes for almost all of them at this point. So be a tiebreaker, be the tiebreaker and let me know what you want to see. We're definitely going to look at next week though. We're definitely going to look at Neurath mono from René Bieder, because I want to see that Futura-ish mono space, compare it to PT mono, PT Futura mono, and see how all of that looks. So Evie, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time as well. Thank you for everyone watching live, watching the replay. I appreciate you guys so much. Who all was here? Daryl was here. Evie was here. Jim Girth was here. Yeah, the usual faces. I appreciate you guys. You guys have been here since day one. So I'm going to get out of here. I was Curtis Simpson. This was Typography News number 65. I'll see you next Sunday. Have a good week. Bye. I didn't click the button. Bye. Got it.